What can we learn from Mary and her Immaculate Heart? How can we use our heart brain to be better than we are now? Before I answer those questions, let me introduce myself first. Hi, I am Salvacion Placer ang tuwako, or Doc Baby, or simply Baby. I am a retired biology professor, but I have not retired from life. And my mission now is to connect with you and share with you God in our life. I hope that through this Connecting the Dots channel, I hope to be able to share with you through stories, experiences, moments, insights, lessons, encounters, that we can find God in our life. I call all these stories as dots, and we can find that God is connected through all these dots in our life. And God has told me to share about Him in my life, and hopefully in your life too, by using my science background as well as my different hobbies, because He is there all the time. And God has made us unique through these different experiences that we have, through the things that we care for. And I wish we can do this together, because we have our missions, and we are supposed to use all our uniqueness to fulfill this mission of helping God in sharing about Him in our life. It doesn't matter what you are now in your life. You can be a doctor, you can be an artist, you can be unemployed, but we are shaped by our different professions, our different experiences, and this is what we are supposed to use to spread God's love to others. Okay, question number 1. How can we learn from Mama Mary and her Immaculate Heart? If we focus and contemplate on pictures of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, we will notice several things. 1. Her heart is visible out of her body. And in some paintings, they even show that she is holding her heart towards us. What does this mean? This shows her undying love to all people, and that she is even willing to give her heart to all of us. This shows us how much she loves us. We can thus learn how to love from her, and how we can offer our love to others. Next, we will notice that her heart is on fire. On fire. And this fire emphasizes the intensity of her love for God and for mankind. And I think this is the reason why Pope Pius XII consecrated the whole world to her Immaculate Heart. And this is in 1942. And after this, Pope John Paul II also did the same thing. And then, just lately, just March of this year, Pope Francis consecrated Ukraine and Russia to her Immaculate Heart. Isn't that something? It's because her love for God and for all mankind is really so intense. The next thing that we will notice is the white roses that encircles her heart. This tells us of the purity of her love for God and for mankind. And her heart is really most pure because of her Immaculate Conception. And so we will never be able to duplicate this, but we can try our best to be also as pure in our love, as pure in our intentions. The next thing that we will notice is that a sword pierces her heart. And this tells us of the sorrows she has experienced throughout her life. So we can learn from her to bear our own sorrows. When Joseph and Mary presented Jesus to the temple, they were told by Simeon there that a sword would pierce Mary's heart. This is from Luke chapter 2 verses 34 to 35. And finally, the last thing that we will see is that her heart is surrounded by rays of light. And in Revelations chapter 12 verse 1, the Blessed Virgin Mary is described as a woman clothed with the sun. So this shows us the rays of the sun surrounding her heart. So we can learn so much about love and how to love from our Blessed Virgin Mary and her Immaculate Heart. Question number 2. How can we use our heart brain to better our condition? Before we answer this question, however, we need to know what is the heart brain, right? Well, the heart brain consists of around 40,000 neurons or nerve cells that are concentrated close to the major blood vessels of the heart, those that are going inside the heart and coming out of the heart. Plus, there are also nerve cells, group of nerve cells that are found in that part of the heart that pumps blood throughout the rest of our body. These neurons have both sensory and motor functions. That means that they can sense what is happening around the heart, inside the heart, and then they also have motor functions. That means that they can make the heart do something, respond to what they sense. And these neurons are highly interconnected with each other through nerve processes. Okay? Now, judging from the location of these neurons, that means that they can sense when blood is going inside the heart and when blood goes out of the heart. And they can not only sense, but they can modulate how the heart responds to everything that is going on around and within the heart, as they can monitor what is coming from these vessels going inside the heart and going out of the heart. So there is an immediate response to everything that is going within and around the heart through this neuron. Years before these neurons were discovered in the heart, it was always thought that the heart is controlled by our brain. The pumping action of our heart and all its activities are controlled by the brain. But with this idea before, there are many questions that came up. Like, if we cut off the heart and remove it from the body, it still beats in a rhythm. So, how can the heart do this? How can it keep to a rhythm outside of the body? You can dissect it out and you will see that it is still beating. And then, the most weird observation that came about is from heart transplants. They have observed that those people who receive heart transplants sometimes exhibit certain behavior that were never their behavior before the transplant. For example, there is somebody with a transplanted heart who developed a taste for a certain kind of food which he has never eaten before. But after his transplant, he kept on asking for this food. What brought this about? And there is an even more puzzling behavior from a young person who received a transplant from another child. And this actually resulted in the solution of a crime. And what is this? Well, this recipient of the heart, after the transplant, started having nightmares of somebody killing her. At first, her parents thought that it's just part of growing up. But after the child complained about the nightmares, practically every night, and she would describe how she was killed. Then they started to get serious about this, and they asked help of professionals. And they asked the child to describe how this man looked like, what exactly happened, and they even asked somebody to sketch her description after her nightmares. They were able to piece together and have a cartographic sketch of somebody. And so they went back to the time that the heart donor died. And they were able to see, by comparing the face of the drawing and with their records, they were able to find the criminal. Can you imagine that? Wow. So, the heart has memories. This is separated from that other person already, from that other child. But then, the transplant recipient received that memory from the transplanted heart. And because of these experiences, Then studies more about the heart surfaced, and in 1991, finally, a certain Dr. Armour, he was able to discover and see these neurons, these nerve cells of the heart, and then he was able to discover that little brain of the heart. So what is now known about these neurons of the heart is that they can act independently of the brain. Of course, they still send information to the brain, and the brain thus knows what is going on. But do you know that the heart brain actually sends more messages to the brain than the brain sends messages to the heart? One of the researchers mentioned that the difference in communication between the heart is 90% coming from the heart and only 10% coming from the brain. Isn't that amazing? So the heart brain can really think, feel, and respond on its own. But it of course tells the brain about everything because it still has this connection with the brain. There are still many things about the heart brain, and if you want to know more about this, then please write in the comments below and tell me so that I can make another video, a more detailed description of this heart brain. Okay, but here in this video I would really like to focus more on the connection between the heart brain and the Immaculate Heart of Mama Mary. If the heart brain is discovered in 1991, Mama Mary already knew how to use this heart brain during her time. And this is found in two verses in the Bible. First, in Luke 2, verse 19. As for Mary, she treasured all these words and pondered them in her heart. This is referring to the message of the shepherds when they told Mary and Joseph about the angels who told them about the birth of Jesus Christ. Then in Luke 3 verse 31, when Jesus was found in the temple after missing for several days, here is what is written there. Jesus went down with them, returning to Nazareth, and he continued to be obedient to them. As for his mother, she kept all these things in her heart. So, during her time, Mama Mary has been keeping things in her heart when she couldn't understand what was going on. And she not only kept these things in her heart, but she pondered about them. So she was using her heart brain then. And we have to really use our heart brain too, so that we can develop just like Mama Mary, or just approximate how she is. Experiments about the heart brain done by HeartMath, an institute that focuses on studying this heart brain, and they have learned from their experiments that the heart brain even responds a few seconds earlier than the brain responds to what is happening around the heart, in the heart. The heart brain responds first, and it can even anticipate what is going to happen next. When they did this experiment of showing images that uh, create strong emotional reactions in people, and they observe that the heart can anticipate what comes next. The anticipation is several seconds earlier than what happens in the brain. Because of these discoveries about the heart brain, I am now able to understand why there are aphorisms about the heart. Aphorisms like this: listen to your heart, follow your heart, it breaks my heart, I know deep in my heart. Notice what happens to your movement or your behavior when you say, I know. You put your hand over your heart. You don't put it over your brain. You put it over your heart. And you say, I know. It's deep in my heart. So, our way of knowing is really found deep in our heart. And now I am also not surprised why Saint Exupéry, in his famous quote in The Little Prince, said, it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. Isn't that amazing? We really have heartfelt knowledge. Then, Blaise Pascal also said, the heart has its reasons, which reasons knows not. Now, this reminds me of what I used to tell my students when I was still actively teaching before. I used to tell them that the correct way of saying I love you is really, I love you with all my hypothalamus, and not I love you with all my heart. Because at that time that I was teaching, our knowledge about the heart and emotions was that the brain controls the emotions, specifically the hypothalamus of the brain. But now, with this new discovery about the heart brain, then it is right after all to say that I love you with all my heart, because the heart really knows, and the heart has its own emotion. The heart can feel, the heart can think, the heart can make decisions on its own. And the heart has the greatest electromagnetic field among all our different body parts, even greater than that of the brain. And immediately when the heart responds, beats, and does something, then everything is sent to our different parts of our body, and our various cells, every cell in our body will receive this information from the heart. And of course from the brain, because the heart and the brain always talk with each other. But as I mentioned earlier, there is more, or there are more messages coming from the heart than coming from the brain. And there is something about our heart that we must always remember. Our heart is affected by our emotions, especially strong emotions and strong negative emotions like anger, grief, hostility, fear have a negative effect on the heart. It can weaken the heart and make it go erratic. It can make the normal rhythmic beating of the heart go haywire. While the core emotions of love, compassion, empathy, kindness, all of this have very strong positive effect on our heart. They strengthen our heart and they make us able to have a very rhythmic rhythm of our heart. They stabilize our heart and make us respond to stress much better. So what is our take home from these lessons about the Immaculate Heart of Mary and about our heart brain? One, we can strive to imitate the Immaculate Heart of Mary in how it loves and how it is pure and how it feels compassion and kindness, trust, because all of this have stabilizing and strengthening effect on our heart. So we can imitate the heart of Mama Mary. And two, we can learn to modulate our negative emotions. Negative emotions like anger, grief, hostility, fear, because they can weaken our heart. Let us do it slowly, but we can do this. We can modulate these emotions and eventually we can replace them with positive emotions so that we can strengthen our hearts and make it respond moderately to stress. So we can let our heart direct more of what we do and how we do things. Don't you agree? And if you have heart messages or heart questions, then please write comments in the section below and we can talk about this. And maybe I can make another video to have more specific things about our heart brain. Would you like to do that? So watch out for it if you want to do this. I'll see you next time then. Thank you for staying with me and thank you for your like and thank you for sharing this with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then please do subscribe. We can do this together. Our missions are connected to each other. Okay. Thank you. I'll see you next time. Bye.